still in this, even though it's the beginning of a new quarter, because my material, even at regular Baptist Press, they're having trouble with the mail. In other words, they don't have enough people. It's like everywhere, they don't have enough people. And so it didn't come when I thought it was going to come. That's okay. I wanted to go this way anyway. But this is the next, what we're going to be doing, from forgiven to faithfulness. And this is a study of 2 Timothy, Titus, and Philemon. But we're going to approach these three letters backwards. We're going to begin with Philemon, forgiveness, and then faithfulness, and then I forget what the exact, here we go. Philemon, forgiveness, righteousness, and faithfulness. Okay? Those three concepts, from forgiven to faithfulness. And we'll be going through those books. Now, one of the things that I was left with was, this is from Christopher's class, the Legacy class. They are participating, but we did this last year, I think. But let's bless Wanda Garcia and her family. This is the family we helped the last few Christmases. Wanda has been helping to care for 7 of her nieces and nephews, since her sister passed away several years ago. New or gently used items are fine. Please bring items to the church no later than Sunday, December 18th, wrapped and labeled with the recipient's name, and place items on or near the Christmas project table in foyer. So there's 2 in particular. There's Alyssa, a 9-year-old girl, and there's Haley, an 8-year-old girl. Fun things, baby dolls, stroller, coloring books, crayons, clothes, shoes and socks, size 2. Clothes size 10, pants, shirts, pajamas, coat, whatever. Haley, fun items, they have those things, and they have it. If you can or would like to help, it's not required, but if you'd like to do that and provide for Wanda, that would be for her nieces and nephew, thank you. That would be good, okay? But then they'll come and collect this afterwards. So maybe see that it gets up at this front. Could someone do that? I'll start it here, go around, Ryan and Colton, if you make sure it comes back this way, and then you can set it right there and they'll come in and get it. Okay. All right, let's open our Bibles to the prophet Hosea. Now let me tell you where I'm going with this. We just got done with, this is the prophet Hosea, responding to God's faithful intervention. Hosea means, the name Hosea means help, deliverance. So God is reaching out to Israel. And he was the last prophet that God sent. He's been called the deathbed prophet. How do you like that? The deathbed prophet, because there was no more after this to the northern kingdom. Everything went downhill after his ministry. So Hosea chapter 1. Let me go to. Oh yeah, I want to go here and just bring your attention to something. We have spent the last quarter right in here, right there. And then we ended last week with the division of the kingdom, Jeroboam, north, Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, in the south. So, what happened after the United Kingdom? There is a course on the divided kingdom. We did that one time. But I'm just picking out one prophet. God sent prophets to the northern kingdom. He sent prophets to the southern kingdom to seek to stop these events. But they wouldn't listen. Hosea was a prophet to the northern kingdom of Israel. And let's get an overview of him, of this book. This comes from Talk Through the Bible from Walk Through the Bible Ministries. Hosea is called by God to prophesy during Israel's last hours. just as Jeremiah would be called years later to prophesy to the crumbling kingdom of Judah. Hosea's personal tragedy becomes, what was his personal tragedy? Does anyone know? His wife, right. And that whole situation with his wife, his marriage became a picture of God and Israel. It was a powerful message. Hosea's personal tragedy becomes an intense illustration of Israel's national tragedy. It is a story of one-sided love and faithfulness between a prophet and his faithless wife, Hosea and Gomer, and Jehovah, or I should say Yahweh, that's a better name, and his faithless people. Just as Gomer is married to Hosea, Israel is betrothed to God. In both cases, the bride plays the harlot and runs after other lovers. In Israel's case, it was Baal. Baal worship. But unconditional love keeps seeking even when it is spurned. In Hosea's case, that means buying back his wife from the slave market where she ended up. For Israel, it means purifying punishment followed by restoration to the land of promise. By the way, which has not occurred yet. You know, let me just kind of get ahead of things a little bit, but I want to go back to that, and I want to make sure. Yeah, I'm going to go to this one, which is the same one. You know, after this happened, and after this happened, what's next? Well, we know. Remember Daniel? Ezekiel was also part of the exile. These two great prophets, Daniel was high up in the Babylonian government. Remember that? Yeah, he was high up. And Ezekiel was not. Ezekiel was among the people and ministered among them. But God revealed some things to Daniel, powerful things, didn't he? Well, we know that one thing, God gave Nebuchadnezzar the king himself a dream, right? And Daniel interpreted this dream to the king. He tried everything. He tried to bring his sorcerers, his enchanters, his magicians in. They couldn't tell him what, and Daniel could. And this basically is the span from the time. Oh, I did that again. What is the matter with me? I think I learned. Maybe we'll get lucky and there'll be a miracle. No miracles. I don't know what to do now. No, what did I shut off? Down here?
It should be coming back.
Oh, it should be? Okay.
There's a big dipper up there.
Oh. What are you talking? Oh, up there. I'm looking for the Big Dipper. Well, that's not.
Yeah, it's not. There you go.
Okay, maybe that was it. I'm so sorry. I had a lot of things. What is that?
It's coming.
I'm not going to go over there again. Dangerous. Yeah, you're the computer guy. Used to be. No, it just I stepped on that cord and I pulled it out. Okay, I gotta put in our secret code. Oh, there's no two of them.
Don't. It's Jesus, isn't it?
No, it's worship.
Password.
Okay. I'm sorry, this is slow. This is an old, goes way back. It's slow as molasses.
Say
But
the
we
word.
only use it for here, for doing this.
Say the word and we can fix it for you.
No, I just gotta work here, and then I just gotta go, oh, that's not it. Oh. Oh, no, it's in there. It's in there, it's right here. There we go.
You would pray to, it's always in there.
What did you say?
I said, if you deal with Pregu, it's in there somewhere.
Okay, there we go. Takes forever to load, okay. We're back in business. Isn't it terrible that we're, okay. Okay, I'm not going back over there. Anyway, this span from Babylon, from the time of the exile when Daniel was taken there, all the way down to the crushing rock. This is Jesus. This is the second coming of the Lord. All this time covers all that time span. And then, this is what God revealed to Nebuchadnezzar, and this is what, in Daniel 7, this is what God revealed to Daniel. Only he saw beasts coming up out of the sea, right? Yeah, and then the same thing at the end. Think I have enough? No, I'm not going to do that for now. Let's see. Oh yeah, and then in Daniel 9, 70 weeks have been decreed for your people in your holy city. And at the end of those 490 years, here's what is going to be done: to finish the transgression, to make an end of sin, to make atonement for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. These things will not occur until the coming of the Lord and the establishment of his millennial kingdom. Because that's when Israel is going to be gathered back and come to repentance. And this is a picture of those 70 weeks. There they are. 62 weeks, Daniel says Gabriel revealed that after the 69th week, two things will happen. Messiah will be cut off, and 40 years later, the people of the prince who is to come, the Antichrist, will destroy Jerusalem. And that's what happened in AD 70. And we are now in this mysterious time. God had not revealed this, but he revealed it to the Apostle Paul. And we're expecting this final week yet to come. And then all 6 things that were mentioned back here will fully have taken place at the second coming of the Lord. So, there's a lot of time here, right? So, just wanted to point that out to you. Let's go back here now. Let's go back here. This is what, in Hosea's case, that means buying back his wife from the slave market. For Israel, it means purifying punishment followed by restoration to the land of promise. And that is what is going on now for a lot of centuries. And it's all going to be, there's going to be a time of restoration, reconciliation to the Lord. Where they were called not my people, they will be called my people. Where they were called not loved, they will be called loved of God. And that's Hosea. Let's read. There's one thing. Here's another thing. I have a lot of Isaiah and Ezekiel incorporated their marriage into their message. Isaiah and Ezekiel did that. But no other marriage was so controversial and yet so crucial to the prophet's ministry as that of Hosea. Hosea's marriage to Gomer was divinely commanded as representative of God's relationship with his people Israel. Hosea's marriage to Gomer is the most distinctive feature and the most intensely debated issue about the book of Hosea. Like his marriage, Hosea's ministry reflected God's dealings with the nation Israel. The tragic marriage that initiated his career did not mark its end. His enduring love for Gomer transcended her infidelity and enabled the marriage relationship to endure after a period of separation and probation. Likewise, Israel's apostasy did not sever God's covenant relationship with that nation either. Okay, so what a great parallel. And his marriage was a picture. It was, not only did he give a message, but also his marriage was the picture. Okay, let's look at our notes now. I got a few more things. That was just the top of the introduction. Hosea lived in the tragic final days of the northern kingdom, during which 6 kings following Jeroboam II, okay, there were 6 remaining after him, reigned within 25 years. Jeroboam reigned 40 years, and there were 6 that reigned in the next 25. Okay, 4 of them, Zechariah, Shallum, Pekahiah, and Pekah, were murdered by their successors while in office, and 1, Hoshea, was captured in battle. Only 1, Menachem, was succeeded on the throne by his son, Pekahiah. So that is the story of this kingdom. And maybe I can point this out right here. Here's Jeroboam. The northern kingdom of Israel was very rich. He was not a godly king. He was not a good one at all. But he was a political and a military and an economic guy. And the northern kingdom reached the height of its glory during Jeroboam II's reign, 40 years. And they thought everything was fine in their apostasy, in their adultery, in their Baal worship. I mean, God's blessing us. But over the next, after he died, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in 25 years, and some of them only reigned 3 months, 1 year. It was a disaster. It was chaotic. They were falling apart. Okay, look at the next paragraph. Hosea has been called the deathbed prophet because he was the final prophet of warning to the northern kingdom of Israel. He had a long career judging from the kings who are named in the opening verse. It began sometime before 753 and continued well after 722 when Samaria fell to Assyria, most likely from 760 to 710 BC, about 50 years plus or minus. That was his reign during that time. And that's why I had this verse up there. No, it's not why. Yes, no. Thought I had another verse. Oh yeah, I did. 6. Hosea 1:1. The word of the Lord that came to Hosea, son of Be'eri, during the reigns of Uzziah, there's his years, 52. Jotham, whatever that is, 18. Ahaz, 735 to 715. Hezekiah, they were the kings of Judah. And during the reign of Jeroboam, 40 years, son of Jehoash, king of Israel. So this dates, Hosea's ministry touched on the reign of all these kings to some level. Okay? Doesn't mean the whole time, but he ministered during the reigns of these kings. Probably 760 right here to after they went into exile. Let's see, where would that have been? It's not Jeroboam. Oh yeah, Hezekiah. They went into exile in 722, and he ministered well after 722. So maybe around to 710. 50 years. And he was a contemporary of Isaiah. He was a contemporary of Micah. He was a contemporary of Amos. Amos was a little earlier, but there was overlap in them. Okay, so there's a little background. Moses' ancient warning against covenant unfaithfulness finally caught up with Israel. Okay? Finally caught up with Israel. Moses, back in Deuteronomy, when he was on the plains of Moab before they went in Deuteronomy, laid out the curses and the blessings, right? Or the blessings first and the curses. Moses' ancient warning against covenant unfaithfulness finally caught up with Israel. This northern kingdom had ample warning from God's servants, the prophets. Hosea was the last one. From Elijah, all the way through Hosea, God sent them prophets. Writing prophets that we have, and prophets that are not writing prophets. From Elijah to Hosea, they had announced captivity as the final consequence of covenant unfaithfulness. fulfillment came in 722 at the hands of Assyria. Okay, let's read and notice Hosea's prodigal wife, and I want to give you some. We're only going to get through the first 3 chapters, okay? But those are the ones that, and I'll talk about the rest of them. Hosea's prodigal wife, let's focus on her. The message of the first 3 chapters and of the entire book oscillates, an oscillating fan, oscillates between judgment and salvation. That's true. You'll have a passage on judgment, and then there'll be a number of verses on the great restoration that's going to occur in the day of the Lord. Oscillates between judgment and salvation. Hosea's marital experiences, which included the heartbreak caused by his wife's unfaithfulness and the joy of their renewed relationship, provide the framework for this message. So, point number 1, and then we'll read it. Gomer, Hosea's prodigal wife. Gomer. Verse 2. When the Lord began to speak through Hosea, the Lord said to him, "Go, take to yourself an adulterous wife and children of unfaithfulness, because the land is guilty of the vilest adultery in departing from the Lord." So he married Gomer, daughter of Diblaim, and she conceived, now notice this, she conceived and bore him a son. Then the Lord said to Hosea, "Call him Jezreel, because I will soon punish the house of Jehu for the massacre at Jezreel, and I will put an end to the kingdom of Israel. In that day I will break Israel's bow in the valley of Jezreel." So Jezreel speaks, the name Jezreel, look at it in your notes there, point A, means God scatters. And it has to do with the idea of judgment. Scattering has to do here, in this verse, with the idea of judgment. God is going to scatter them into Babylon and into the nations of the world. Why I said notice verse 3 is, she conceived and bore him a son. So evidently Jezreel was actually Gomer's son. You understand what I mean? He was the father. And why was this? Because he says here in verse 2, he had said, because the land is guilty of the vilest adultery in departing from the Lord. The infidelity of Hosea's wife, Gomer, paralleled the spiritual prostitution of Israel. Baal worship dominated the land and brought with it every form of perversion. This fertility cult promoted human sacrifice and ritual prostitution. Baal was a fertility god, okay? Which means for the land to produce, for the cows to reproduce, for, to have prosperity, you needed fertility. So they would worship Baal through sexual practices. There were male prostitutes, female prostitutes in their temples, and they worshiped Baal. And child sacrifice too.
So what does that mean, adulterous wife? She was a prostitute?
She was probably became a prostitute and maybe a temple prostitute.
And the son Jezreel was Hosea's, or was he
No,
someone else's?
he was Hosea's.
Oh, okay.
But I said that because the next two might not be. Look at verse 6. Gomer conceived again and gave birth to a daughter, but it doesn't say that it was his. Okay? Gave birth to a daughter. Then the Lord said to Hosea, call her, and the reason, you're saying, well, you're jumping to a conclusion. No, it said in verse 2, go take to yourself an adulterous wife and children of unfaithfulness. So it doesn't say him, it says Gomer conceived again and gave birth to a daughter. Then the Lord said to Hosea, call her Lo Ruhamah, which means not loved. Not loved. For I will no longer show love to the house of Israel, that I should at all forgive them. Yet I will show love to the house of Judah, the southern kingdom, and I will save them, not by bow or sword or battle, or by horses and horsemen, but by the Lord their God. And by the way, in the southern kingdom, God did that. Twice Assyria attempted to take the southern kingdom, and God prevented it. Do you remember one of the occasions? When the whole Assyrian army surrounded Jerusalem. And there were 185,000 soldiers. I think it was 85. Is that right? Yeah. Scattered or gathered around Jerusalem. And then, Hezekiah cried out to God. This is 701 BC for help. And in the morning, they got up, and Hezekiah went out. What did he find? All 185,000 soldiers were dead. All dead. And they went and they took plunder from the soldiers. And God, and it says the king of Assyria went back to his country. God spared them. And that's what it's talking about. And there were two occasions when that happened. So Lo Ruhamah, as far as the northern kingdom, not loved. And then verse 8, after she weaned Lo Ruhamah, Gomer had another son. Then the Lord said, call him Lo Ami, and that means not my people. For you are not my people, and I am not your God. So there we go. Well, point B is the adulterous birth of Lo Ruhamah, and C, the adulterous birth of Lo Ami, not my people. And all of a sudden now, after a period of judgment, right, because of their infidelity, and Hosea's wife, her infidelity, we have now, point D, the future restoration promised. Now notice, all of a sudden now, we go to what God is going to do. Yet, in spite of the fact that you are not loved, Lo Ruhamah, Lo Ami, you're not my people. And there's going to be a long time where that's going to be true. He says in verse 10, yet the Israelites will be like the sand on the seashore, which cannot be measured or counted. By the way, that's a promise in Genesis. Let's see if I remember the verse, or I can find it. Genesis 22, verse 17. Yes. So the Israelites are going to be like the sand on the seashore, which cannot be measured or counted. In the place where it was said to them, "You are not my people," they will be called sons of the living God. The people of Judah and the people of Israel will be reunited. Remember the two sticks of Ezekiel's prophecy? Take a stick, put on it Israel. Take another stick, put on it Judah, and tie them together. Because they're going to be reunited as one united kingdom, and they're going to seek after David, their king, or the son of David, right? Anyway, the people of Judah and the people of Israel will be reunited, and they will appoint one leader and will come up out of the land. For great will be the day of Jezreel. And the day of Jezreel, that day is going to be when all the nations of the world come together under Antichrist. And where are they going to come to? That battle of what? Armageddon. That's Jezreel. The plain of Megiddo, or the plain of Jezreel. It's got both names. Many battles have been fought there. That great will be the day of Jezreel. Say to your brothers, my people. That's the opposite of Lo Ami, not my people. And to your sisters, my loved one. That's the opposite of Lo Ruhamah, not love. You see that, what he's doing? So, in a time of what's gonna happen in judgment, in verse 10, chapter 1, verse 10 through chapter 2, verse 1, we have this glorious promise of restoration, of reuniting, of seeking, appointing one leader. And that day is gonna be great. God's deliverance. When all the nations of the world come to the plain of Megiddo, Har-Mageddon, or the valley of Jezreel. And the Lord is gonna come. Remember Zechariah 14, at the last moment, when all appears to be lost, he will come and his feet will touch on the Mount of Olives. Right? And that is when they'll look upon me whom they pierced, and they will mourn, and there will be this great restoration, and they will say, you know, they will be reconciled to God. All right, now, point number 2, Israel, God's prodigal wife. Now, Hosea and Gomer kind of fall out of the picture a bit, and we see the side of Israel and God's people. Israel is God's prodigal, adulterous wife. And this is chapter 2, verse 2 through 13. I put it 23, it's 13. Okay? 2 to 13. God's prodigal wife. Hosea's relationship with Gomer was designed to reflect the Lord's experience of being rejected by his covenant people Israel. In chapter 2, verses 2 to 13, the Lord described this rejection in detail, comparing Israel to an unfaithful wife who chased after lovers. In the process of confirming the nation's guilt, the Lord announced coming judgment. So here we go. Let's read verse 2. Rebuke your mother, rebuke her, for she is not my wife, and I am not her husband. Let her remove the adulterous look from her face and the unfaithfulness from between her breasts. Otherwise, I will strip her naked and make her as bare as on the day she was born. I will make her like a desert, turn her into parched land, and slay her with thirst. I will not show my love to her children, because they are the children of adultery. Their mother has been unfaithful and has conceived them in disgrace. She said, I will go after my lovers, who give me my food and my water, my wool and my linen, my oil and my drink. Now, they didn't look to the Lord for those things, who promised in the covenant that he would provide them all, didn't he? The blessings. They would never have need of any. Who were they looking to provide these things? Baal. This filthy, dirty, non-entity, perhaps demons behind Baal worship. She said, I'll go after my lovers, who give me my food and my water and my wool and my linen and my oil and my drink. Therefore, God says, I'll block her path with thorn bushes. I'll wall her in so she cannot find her way. She will chase after her lovers but not catch them. She will look for them but not find them. Then she will say, this is a message of hope, a little bit. I will go back to my husband as at first, for then I was better off than now. She has not acknowledged that I was the one who gave her the grain, the new wine and the oil, who lavished on her the silver and the gold, which they used for Baal. God's the one that provided it for them. Therefore, I will take away my grain when it ripens, and my new wine when it is ready. I will take back my wool and my linen, intended to cover her nakedness. So now I will expose her lewdness before the eyes of her lovers. No one will take her out of my hands. I will stop all her celebrations, her yearly festivals, her new moons, her Sabbaths, all her appointed feasts. I will ruin her vines and her fig trees, which she said were her pay from her lovers. I will make them a thicket, and wild animals will devour them. I will punish her for the day she burned incense to the Baals. She decked herself with rings and jewelry, and went after her lovers, But me she forgot, declares the Lord. That's God's judgment. This is what happened here, and what has continued to the present day. Now, at the very bottom of your notes, very bottom, the judgment, however, did you see that? See it? The judgment, however, would not be final. For God intended to draw Israel back and restore the broken covenantal relationship. And that's, by the way, chapter 2, verse 14 to 23. So this section, like the prior one, progresses from judgment to what? Hope, restoration, this great day when they will have one king and they will be reunited again and they will be restored to God and God to them. So here we go, verse 14. Therefore I am now going to allure her. I will lead her into the desert and speak tenderly to her. By the way, why is reference made to the desert? Where did God, yeah, that's right. Before they ever went into the land of Canaan and got involved in Baal worship. God had delivered them in redemption and dealt with them through and led them along right up to the borders of the promised land, right? Before Baal was ever in the picture. So God says, I want to do what I did at the beginning. I'll lead her into the desert and speak tenderly to her. There I will give her back her vineyards, and will make the valley of Achor a door of hope. There she will sing as in the days of her youth, as in the day she came up out of Egypt. See that? Going back to the beginning. In that day, declares the Lord, you will call me my husband, and you will no longer call me my master. By the way, the word Hebrew is Baal. You no longer will say Baal. You'll call me my husband. I will remove the name of the Baals from her lips. No longer will their names be invoked. In that day I will make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field, birds of the air, the creatures that move along the ground, bow and sword and battle I will abolish from the land, so that all may lie down in safety. I will betroth you to me forever. I will betroth you in righteousness and justice, in love and compassion. I will betroth you in faithfulness, and you will acknowledge the Lord. In that day I will respond, declares the Lord. I will respond to the skies, and they will respond to the earth, and the earth will respond to the grain, the new wine and oil, and they will respond to Jezreel. I will plant. By the way, this is where Jezreel is not used for punishment, but it literally means God scatters, God throws out seed. And I will plant her for myself in the land. I will show my love to the one I called not my loved one. I will say to those called not my people, you are my people, and they will say, you are my God. That hasn't happened yet, folks, but it's going to. And that is why, in the millennium, Israel is going to be the place and the people to know and get attached to, because their leader is going to be Jesus Christ. And because of their relationship with God, all families of the earth are going to be blessed in a time of peace that they've never had at all. There will be no more war. The curse of sin will be lifted to Edenic conditions, and there's going to be peace, prosperity, and there's going to be the name of the Lord will be at the center of it all. And people will go to this place, go to Jerusalem. There'll be a massive temple, and God will be glorified in that time. Okay, then number 3. Well, I already did that one. Israel restored as God's wife. And A, B, and C, having brought Israel to a place of desperation in which she would again look to him, the Lord said he would take the next steps in restoring the relationship. Israel's positive response would lead to covenant renewal and blessing. There would be A, courtship, I'm gonna speak tenderly to her, I'm gonna woo her, courtship, there'll be betrothal, I will betroth you in faithfulness, and there'll be restoration. You are my people, and they will say, you are my God. It's gonna be that relationship. So, number 4 there, Gomer, Israel's restoration prefigured. Now we're going back to Gomer and his wife. Gomer, Israel's restoration prefigured. Just 5 verses here. Point A, the redemption of love. Redemption of love. Israel's past, loved by God. And let's read verses 1 and 2. The Lord said to me, that is, the Lord said to Hosea, go, show your love to your wife again, though she is loved by another and is an adulteress. Love her, as the Lord loves the Israelites, though they turn to other gods and love the sacred raisin cakes. So I bought her. He did what God said. I bought her for 15 shekels of silver and about a homer and a lethek of barley. The price for a slave, purchasing a slave in the law of Moses, was 30 shekels. So evidently he paid cash 30 shekels of silver and about a homer and a lethek of barley, the other part of it. Okay? Then I told her, now, I don't like the way the NIV worded this. There's an alternative to it. You are to live with me many days. Literally, you're to wait for me many days. You must not be a prostitute or be intimate with any man, and I will wait for you. So there's going to be a time between here and this great restoration time to come, right? There's going to be a time when they will not. By the way, after the exile, remember in Babylon and so forth, when that all came about, they didn't return to idolatry after that. At all. They were, that was cleansed, that was solved. But there's gonna be this period of waiting now. He bought her, and he says, you wait for me, don't be intimate with any man, and I will wait for you. There's going to be a time of probation and waiting. Then look at verse 3. Verse 4. For the Israelites will live many days, notice this, without a king or a prince, without sacrifice, no temple, or sacred stones, without ephod or idol. They're going to live without these things. After this waiting time, the Israelites will return and seek the Lord their God and David their king. Who's David their king? Jesus the Christ, right. Remember the Davidic covenant. They will come trembling to the Lord and to his blessings in the last days. So all 3 chapters, though there's a description of their unfaithfulness and all that, each one of those chapters ends with a promise, doesn't it? Isn't that great? Isn't God good? Mm-hmm. He does that. He keeps the promise and the restoration out there. Now, notice the last part of your notes. Yahweh's or the Lord's. Whenever you see the Lord in your Bibles in all caps, L-O-R-D in all caps, that is the word literally, Yahweh. It's Yahweh. Yahweh's prodigal people. I'll just read this. The indictment of the first section is expanded now and applied in a series of prophetic messages. The biographical element is now gone. Hosea and Gomer are not mentioned in chapters 4 through 14. The biographical information is gone, the analogy. The scene is more like a courtroom, with the prophet serving as God's prosecuting attorney. The indictment against Israel that was given in the first section is now supported by evidence, and the verdict is issued. Chapter 4, verse 1. Hear the word of the Lord, you Israelites, because the Lord has a charge to bring against you who live in the land. There is no faithfulness, no love, no acknowledgement of God in the land. That's the charge. And now all kinds of evidence is going to be presented. And there are basically, next paragraph, though emphasis is placed on Israel's guilt and impending doom, each of the three major sections concludes on a positive note by referring to Israel's resurrection. Oh, what did I say? Oh, restoration. So there they are. The Lord's case against Israel, that section ends with prophetic blessing of restoration. The Lord's case against Israel is expanded even more, and that section ends with prophetic last day blessing, restoration. And then the Lord's case against Israel is concluded, and all of chapter 14 has to do with restoration and the last days and in that day. So that's Hosea. He was God's last messenger to the northern kingdom. And after that, things deteriorated quickly. So that's the United Kingdom, folks, and then the divided kingdom that follow. It's just a sad case of things became so great during King Solomon, right? In fact, even a prefigurement of millennial conditions. And then Solomon's heart got turned away from God. And God judged him. The kingdom was divided, and though the southern kingdom lasted longer, they had about 7 good kings that walked in the ways of their father David. David's the standard. And God blessed them for it, although none of them were perfect. Remember, they're all shadows of Shiloh. Jesus, shadows of Shiloh. And so there's a lot more coming, isn't there? And we know where we're at in the frame, in the picture, but God, when the Lord comes again, Israel will repent, Israel will be reunited, they are my people, they will say, you are our God, right? And he will say, you are my people. And God's plan and purpose has always been that I chose Abraham to be the conduit of blessing to all the peoples of the earth. The world doesn't like that. Anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, all of it is, who's behind all that? Satan, right? Satan is. So we're thankful. We thank God for Israel. We know they're not regenerated. We know they're dry bones, but we know that our great future. And even now, we were grafted in to the Abrahamic covenant, right? To the blessing. We're getting the blessing. And that's intended by God, Paul says, to make Israel envious. That's one of the purposes of the church and what he's doing now, to create envy. They're going to see it one day, that we enjoyed the blessings of the new covenant, which was theirs, which will be applied to them. Thank you, our Father, for these great Old Testament passages, which I trust in our study we've been able to see how to read the Old Testament. Read it in light of the Mosaic covenant, the Abrahamic covenant, the Davidic covenant, and Israel's faithfulness or unfaithfulness, and how this all ties in, especially to the last day, the day of the Lord that's to come. Thank you for these lessons that we've enjoyed. We look forward to getting into the New Testament. Thank you for your rich blessings. In Jesus' name, amen. All right.